Hi, good morning, everyone. Nice that you could join us on this Palm Sunday morning. We're happy to have you join us, whether it be your first or your 100th time. It's always a delight to have you with us. And each worship service is put together with a great number of people pitching in and helping to make it a great worship service. And this morning, I am joined by worship associate Brian Bliss. Brian, would you tell us about the rest of the service, please?
Thank you, Reverend Susan. Yes, we have Lance Hellman will be delivering a story that he wrote and illustrated called Don't Give Up, which is a treat. And I just would like to give a shout out to Jen Leiden, who has been editing our videos. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Director of Music Ministry, Joanne Connolly. Joanne?
Thank you, Brian. Yes, happy Palm Sunday. Happy to be with you this morning. This morning, Reverend Susan will be speaking about Jesus as a rabble rouser, about his bravery, and about confronting the system. So she's chosen a great hymn, O Young and Fearless Prophet, that we'll sing. There'll be some other music around those themes, and Craig Worth will also be joining me on the guitar, along with Susan Adams on the piano. And back to you, Brian.
Thanks, Joanne. So we're really glad, everyone, that you're here for our worship service.
Join the Learning Associates during social hour today for a time of connection and reflection on the experiences and challenges of the last year. The link to social hour, which begins right after worship, can be found in your Sunday morning email. We hope that you'll be able to set aside this time and join us for some small group discussions. And people of all ages are invited to join a congregation-wide Becoming Challenge for the month of April. Participants will commit to trying to sit in an outdoor spot every day in April for at least 10 minutes. To go with this sit each day, there will be a simple task in the form of an activity, prompt to ponder, short reading, or other things related to the month's church theme of becoming. After a brief kickoff and informational Zoom meeting, there's also 2 opportunities during the month to check in as a community on this project via Zoom. When you sign up, you'll be added to an email list to receive the Zoom links, the calendar of daily activities, and other information and tips on how it works. This is geared toward all ages with activity options appropriate for young kids through adults. For more information and to sign up, please email Jen Del Deo at southchurch-uu.org.
Hello, I'm Dave Thompson, a member of the Social Justice Associates since June 2019. The SJA is a team of South Church members devoted to community health and social justice in support of our Unitarian Universalist principles. I've had the privilege of working with this dedicated team on a range of issues, including voting rights, economic and climate justice. Working with the League of Conservation Voters, I helped organize a climate justice film presentation and panel discussion at the church just before the pandemic hit. The Marathon for Justice film opened many of our eyes to the profound environmental injustices such as polluted air and water that marginalized communities struggle against and fight with daily. The follow-up discussion by respected members of the climate justice community informed the audience as to the challenges we face here locally. The entire SJA team helped make this event a success. I've also had the opportunity to meet with members of other UU congregations across our state through the UU Climate Action Team. We've been in regular contact sharing news of events and legislation that have a bearing on climate justice in New Hampshire. And of course, our monthly SJA team meetings and frequent forums are extremely helpful in furthering my understanding of a range of social issues, from getting out to vote in critical elections to understanding the plight of minimum wage earners and affording the necessities of life. Not only does the SJA inform about issues of importance to all UU members, but it also provides possibilities of affecting real change, from postcard campaigns that urge citizens to vote and online videos explaining the absentee ballot process, to writing to our political representatives in support of important legislation. I value the friendships made within the SJA, as well as with like-minded people I've met while tabling at social hour. Wow, that seemed like a long time ago. As the time approaches for associates program signups, I hope you'll consider joining the SJA. Thank you.
There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, be the light, raise our eyes in the dark of night. To climb this hill, together we will. Shine your light in the darkness. Shine your light in the darkness. Let your bright heart burn out loud and be a kindness gift in the world. There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, be the light, raise our eyes in the dark of night. To climb this hill, together we will. Shine your light in the darkness. Shine your light in the darkness. Let your bright heart burn out loud and be a kindness gift in the world.
The official Christian Gospels tell us that 2,000 years ago, the renegade spiritual teacher Yeshua, known to us as Jesus, entered Jerusalem riding on a donkey colt. On his way to the holy city, well-wishers spread their cloaks and palm fronds on the road before him. Jerusalem at the time was a hotbed of revolutionary fervor, and Jesus' popularity represented a threat to the Roman colony, where the great majority of people suffered under a brutal military occupation. Having already suppressed a revolt, the Roman authorities persecuted and crucified Jesus to neutralize someone they saw as a possible rebel leader. To me, the great irony of official Christianity, given its origins, is how it became a major source of intolerance and suppression, a legacy that arguably continues in some churches to this day. Even more ironically, some of Jesus's teachings continue to pose a threat, but now it's toward dogmatically oriented religious institutions. Scholar Elaine Pagels writes that in the Gospel of Luke, when Jesus says, "The kingdom of God is within you," he's urging us to seek divinity within ourselves. Many Christian officials don't agree with her interpretation, but the unofficial Gospel of Thomas the Contender, which lay hidden in the desert until 1945, backs her up. Pagels says that in this Gnostic Gospel, Jesus urges us to see ourselves as his identical twin. He addresses Thomas and all of us with these words: "You are my twin and my true companion. Examine yourself and learn who you are. Whoever has not known himself knows nothing, but whoever has known himself has come to know the depth of all things." Identifying with the divine can be a powerful source of liberation. We have met the Savior, and it is us. As we light our chalice today, please feel free to light a chalice or candle in your own space. As we do so, here are two quotes from the Gospel of Thomas. "If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. If you do bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you." Feel free to join in as we recite the mission statement displayed on your screen. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community.
O young and fearless prophet of ancient Galilee, your life is still the summons to serve humanity, to make our thoughts and actions less prone to please the crowd, to stand with humble courage for truth with hearts unbowed. Oh, help us stand unswerving against war's bloody way, where hate and lust and falsehood hold back your holy sway. Forbid false love of country that turns us from your call, who lifts above the nation, the neighborhood of all. Create in us the splendor that draws when hearts are kind, that knows not race nor station as boundaries of the mind, that learns to value beauty in heart or mind or soul, and longs to see God's children as sacred, perfect whole.
A long time ago, a friend and I made a trip to Cape Cod, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and we arrived at her friend's house, and she went inside, but I explored a big sort of garden, rolling hills, lots of trees, right by the edge of the ocean, and that's what this first picture shows. In this picture, you can see my car in the foreground, and I'm walking into the rolling large lawn of the house. And in the background, the sea, a sailboat, and the sky. It was a beautiful day on Cape Cod. And the next picture shows me walking into the lawn. I walked around into the lawn. I was enjoying myself, and then I saw a cat off in the distance, and the cat was doing something, and I walked over to the cat to see what it was doing. And to my surprise, this is what the cat looked like. The actual cat may not have entirely looked like this, but it was Cape Cod, and the cat was doing something not very nice. So in my mind anyway, I thought it looked like this sort of vicious, mouse-hating pirate cat. What the cat was doing was, from the cat's point of view, playing with a mouse. And the cat would walk up to this mouse and it would whack it. And the mouse would roll for 2 or 3 feet in the grass. The cat would walk up to the mouse again and whack it again. It was a rather cruel thing the cat was doing. So this picture is a bit more realistic, and it shows the cat whacking the mouse. And what, to me, one of the strange things about this picture was each time after the mouse tumbled in the grass, it would stand up and rear up on its hind legs and bare its little teeny tiny teeth and stretch out its little teeny tiny arms, which were thin as toothpicks, and it would stand up against the cat. the cat that was maybe 100 times bigger than the mouse. Whack! The cat would just whack it again. I think you get a sense of, by looking at the paw and claws of the big cat and that little tiny mouse. I think the mouse maybe was injured or maybe exhausted, because he didn't run away from the cat. He just, when he was done tumbling, stood up and sort of bared his teeth and little tiny claws, and then the cat would whack him again. I like cats, but I encouraged this cat to move away from the mouse. It did not want to do that, but I gave it more encouragement. And then I picked up this little heroic mouse and I walked and put him under a very thick bush, a bush so thick that I didn't think the cat could get in and capture him again. In the picture, you can see my hand in the upper right holding the mouse by its tail, and in the lower left, the mouse, after I released it, running into the bush, running to safety. When I think about this story, I think that the lesson of the story is don't give up. When we can, we should get help. Maybe from our family, maybe from our friends. But when we don't get help right away, don't give up. Don't give up. If you're fortunate, sometime a person may come and pick you up by your tail and put you in a safe place. That's what happened to a mouse I knew many years ago.
It's now time for the offering, an opportunity to support the programs of our church and to live our shared values in the larger community. This month, we're sharing our plate with Women Aid of Greater Portsmouth, whose mission is to provide short-term financial assistance to neighbors in need when they have nowhere else to turn. You can contribute by following the instructions on your screen, which will be shown again at the end of the service. You can also donate by going to our website, southchurch-uu.org.
Precious day, we're all gathered here, and those far away, for this time we share, with love and care, we give thanks, for this precious day.
This morning, I want to stop at this time of prayer and just, I'm even speechless when I think of all that's happened in the last couple of weeks. The murder of 8 people, Asian American hate, Pacific Islander hate, just rearing its ugly head, a shooting in Colorado. It seems overwhelming to me some days. I don't even know where to go with it. I know that you join me in prayer. I know that you join me in heartfelt ways of reaching out to the world and of centering into breathing and trying to be hopeful. So this morning, as we enter into prayer, let me try to have us be hopeful that the events that happen that so shock us because they shouldn't happen. And let me offer words of hope that because we do care, because we mourn, because our heart breaks at the death, at the violence, at the hate, that maybe in that heartbreaking moment, love can enter and help us find a little strength so that we can support others who are suffering. And sometimes the only thing we can do is just breathe. Just breathe the air. Notice the new life coming out about us, the birds and the plants and things just starting to renew. And I guess maybe for me, that renewal, the fact that nature can renew, can heal herself, and can give me little glimpses of hope. Well, some days that's what I have, and that's what I have to offer you. So my prayer is for all who suffer, all who are in pain, all who are lost, all who are in distress. May you just find a couple moments of peace, whether it be here in these moments of silence, or whether it be when you head outside and get a little fresh air today. Please know that you're not alone. That's the only thing that gets me through my days sometimes, knowing I'm not alone. So take a moment and write your prayer needs, write your thoughts, express your feelings in the chat, and know that we are here. We listen, we hear, we're watching. We care for you. We love you. There is more love in the world than hate. There really is. And may we be the bearers of love. Amen. Jesus is about to have one of the worst kind of weeks ever in his short and fiery life and ministry. The struggle is real, the outcome not totally known except in hindsight. And he is on a path of self-destruction. If he keeps going at the rate he is, pushing the revolution and talking about a shift from the earthly kingdom to a heavenly kingdom, and people talking about him being the king of the Jews, he is really, really going to upset those in power and endanger his life. As I was pondering what to say about this Christian holy day, there were three thoughts that kept popping up for me. One, even though most of us in this congregation might not identify as Christian, it is important that we understand the influence our culture has had from the Christian message. And two, that if we look into who Jesus was as a teacher and a preacher and a healer and a prophet and a rebel rouser, and the many lessons that we learned from him to tend the hungry, to care for the outcasts, the imprisoned, the poor. Well, his struggles and the way that he approached life, his life, can really help us to look at our own spiritual development. And lastly, those writing history always have a particular story they want us to hear. They tell it slant, as Maya Angelou was fond of saying. I much prefer to dig deeper and wider and explore lots of avenues, and often I come up with a story that is maybe more interesting and inclusive and engaging. So I never want us to forget that the Bible is one big history story, and the New Testament is mainly a biography of that man named Jesus, his birth, his death, and all the actions, hopes, dreams, mistakes, relationships, and his struggles to reform his religion and confront the systems of oppression and abuse of power. He was a rabble rouser. Now, there are personal struggles we engage in as we strive to do the right thing, and the struggles we engage in to overcome adversities, struggles to overcome deep loss, and sometimes struggles that just result in trying to keep one foot in front of the other to keep on keeping on. Struggle is that strenuous effort to progress despite difficulties. And there are serious and weighty public struggles, such as trying to make meaning out of the social, cultural happenings like a coronavirus that has killed millions worldwide, and a virus that has brought us to our knees for both prayer and sometimes by defeat. Racism and oppression and poverty and immigration, and how to deal with that insurrection, oh, by the way, that happened on January 6th, and the devastating effects of a culture that has hate and violence seeming at its core some days, and the divisiveness that permeates our political landscape. And now it's true that it's inevitable as we go through life. What an odd concept that is. Go through life. What would sound better? As we live through life, as we bound through life, as we crawl through life, as we march through life, as we learn through life? I don't have an answer today, and I guess it isn't needed. But anyways, as we live through life, it is inevitable that we are going to be scarred by struggle. There are going to be events that wound us and injure us and that have to heal and that leave a mark on us. And I would not want it any other way. Who among you has no scar, visible or invisible, that has not made you stronger, wiser, more spirited, more courageous, perhaps more wary, but nonetheless a survivor as we go through life. I have a scar on my forehead. It's not very large, but I remember exactly how I got it. I was in early teens and I wanted to go out with friends that I knew my parents would disapprove of. So I did what any foolish 14-year-old would do. I lied to my parents about where and whom I was going out with. Of course, I got caught. And I thought my folks were being unreasonable when they put me under house arrest. Well, maybe not really, but they grounded me for a while. And so I went in the garage to work with my Grampy Faye and to try to talk with him about my parents. I hoped he would help me discover why they were being so unreasonable and not letting me hang around with who I wanted to hang around. I was hoping he'd be on my side. And as we were working on a truck that he was repairing, we were talking about the kind of friends that the adults in my life thought I should have, the type of character traits I should develop, and the expectations from my learning and experiencing to do the right things with the right people at the right time. We were engaged deeply in conversation when suddenly the vehicle we were working on lurched forward a couple of inches and the hood lock nicked my forehead, causing a bloody wound. Now, it isn't often when going through life, or maybe it's in yours, but not in mine, when actual struggles, such as what are friends, what's character, and what is expected from me, results in a wound that is scarred over, but really is very visible, serving as a visible reminder of some very deep conversations. I'm like you, I have other scars and lingering signs of damage from life events that I have struggled with. Events that I sometimes had a choice in engaging in, and sometimes events that occurred in my life that I absolutely had no choice except how I was going to heal from them. Hopefully, healing occurs rather than scar tissue covering over festering sores. Oh, from each event of suffering, a story can be told. And the New Testament is no exception to that. The authors of the New Testament and many authors such as Elaine Pagels, A.N. Wilson, and others have chosen to tell the story of Jesus' suffering from a particular perspective. Each has a slant on how they want us to hear it, believe it, and apply it in our lives. And I too have a perspective as well. My perspective on suffering, struggle of Jesus, is going to be different from others who define themselves as believers in the saving nature of the crucifixion. I like Palm Sunday. Within the Lenten and Easter season, I like it the best. It is a day that signifies the choices that Jesus made, choices that sealed his fate. He didn't turn back. He made choices. And in that gospel narrative, Jesus is preparing to enter Jerusalem. It is a holy time in the city, and he had been a source of much trouble to both the Sanhedrin Jewish leaders and more particularly to the Roman rulers. He had created quite a stir, bringing a radically new message and approach that would stand, in fact, did stand religion right on its head. Entering Jerusalem was a choice he made, and he was determined to confront and to struggle against all that he thought was wrong in that society and religion at that time. The Roman society he was confronting included the way people were being oppressed. Remember, he hung out with those who were oppressed. He knew their suffering. He knew their stories. And he was also upset that the way some religious rulers had become oppressors also. Now, the townspeople one would have us believe from the story, placed palm branches down on the ground as Jesus entered the city, treating him as royalty, as a king. The crowd is gathered as the humble Jesus enters the city on an ass, not regally on a horse, as the pride-filled Roman leaders are entering the city gates at the opposite end of town at the same time. Now it is just before Passover, and the number of people coming to worship in Jerusalem at the temple is rising and swelling day by day. And the tensions are heightening, and the last thing anybody wants is a ragtag gang and a radical reformer running around getting everybody all whipped up about a new way of being, a new kingdom. It's quite a display. The crowds are gathering and they're cheering him on and they're urging him on and they're applauding and they're alleluias, or so the writers of the New Testament story would have us believe, as Jesus came into the city for that last week. But there's an aspect of the story that nags me, however. The writers of the story would have us see that there were masses greeting and gathering and welcoming Jesus as the king, and they were there to cheer him on. Yet when that week is over, there will be very few who will be by his side, and even fewer will be with him during his struggle till death. Mary, his mother, Mary Magdalene, Simone, few of the other women that followed them around, his brother James, and Simon of Cyrene, who supposedly was the man who assisted Jesus in carrying his cross. Well, they're the only persons left present during the 12 hours between his capture and his crucifixion. For me, that's a reminder of how challenging it is to remain compassionate and present with others during their times of trouble. And it also is a reminder that you never, never doubt that your presence with another who suffers isn't much appreciated and noted. The whole story about Jesus coming in Palm Sunday is a passion play, and that was an ancient way to show events in Jesus's life. In fact, some of you remember walking the Stations of the Cross during Lent. That's your own personal passion play. Passion plays are based on the gospel stories. Now, remember, there's no verifiable historical written accounts of Jesus's life and death, and even the earliest gospel, the book of Mark, was written 30 to 40 years after his death. Yet stories about his death and his life permeate our culture and are the basis for all of the Christian belief and religion. A story must be told, and all gospel writers had a particular perspective to advance. Each of the gospel stories, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, were fashioned in part after Mark, but not all gospel stories are consistent. For example, if you go back and read some of them, the accusation comes at night. In other stories, it comes in the morning. And there is a trial at the high priest's house with masses of people there. There is a trial with only the high priest there. The suggestion to release Barabbas comes from Pilate or from the people. All of Jesus's garments are torn apart, or the tunic is claimed whole by casting lots. And the story about Judas. Did he regret what he did and then commit suicide? Is it true that he had any part of this at all? And then Pilate's hand washing. Oh, there's so many, many stories, and they all different from gospel to gospel. But to have a good story, we don't always have to have all the facts, do we? And good storytellers can choose which parts to enhance or display or downplay, to report on, to portray or not, in order to advance a plot and shape a reaction. The thing, though, to remember is that with all New Testament authors, they had the same purpose, and that was to make believers out of non-believers and to strengthen those believers' convictions. A great story about struggle, about pushing on, about making choices, about the risk of being a rabble-rouser. Great stories. Now, for me, the purpose or a purpose of a story is to learn lessons, oftentimes through others' experiences, their sharings. I can learn how to engage and emerge from struggles of living, of life, of getting through life, scarred, yet wholly, healthy, and spiritually stronger. And we need the help of others to do that. Out of that solitary suffering, we need to come out of that. We need to come out of our silent suffering, and we need to reach out to others. And remember that though the whole throng leading and cheering Jesus on weren't there, there were people that was behind him and beside him, and even an absolute stranger who helped him to carry a burden. So I believe it's a positive thing that each of us is scarred by struggle. And I think it is a positive thing that we can work through, live through, learn through, and most importantly, we can help each other through suffering by just being there, by just being here. Struggle, as one religious person wrote, is an unsparing lesson, but a necessary gift. It is not a gift that we at first sight want, but facing struggle gives us the gift of making the choice of whether to crumble or be brave. And now braving it does not mean that we suffer strong and silent, but that we engage in the process to learn about ourselves, about the value of living, and the valuable things that are worth loving in our life. These valuable things, people, and places where we can go to feel safe, to dispel our gloom, and to share with others, knowing that we will be held in loving and compassionate care. I hope and I pray that here at South Church, you feel upheld in love and compassion, and that the strength of all of us is united for a common purpose, to love the world and all in it, even those who were rabble-rousers, even though you might be a troublemaker, even though you might be a prophet, even though you are always, always welcome here, and I will be with you, no matter what your struggles are. May it be so. Blessings.
I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we're together again.
Let this be our blessing, that we love the world and all beings in it, that we remain ever present to one another in times of joy and times of struggle, and that our Unitarian Universalist message of exploration of all world religions educate and enlighten us, and that stories from other cultures and other religions give us strength and support, and that we are as radically inclusive as Jesus would have taught us, that we are brave in facing struggles, knowing that there will always be others who will stay with us if we ask. And may, most of all, this day bless you, and you be a blessing of this day. Go in peace and love. Amen.